The round 3 of the World Championship sees in San Marino, where the most caps you get of years later that Roland Ratzenberger and Ayrton Senna died in the same end. Ayrton Senna was the most reliability on driving the cars and winning 3 world championships in the following stages of all. And what was the reflection? It had been a few years, it's a long time that I've seen some tragedies of Roland and Ayrton. So I'm going to say that Imola in 94 was devastating. So fast forward now, we're safe. P.S. I skipped qualifying by mistake and starting the race onwards. At the goal, Mika Hakkinen had made a good start, holding his line. Meanwhile, I had a good start, passing him there, but then the horrible for Jordan. For instance, gearbox is in issued onwards. Very, very bad. For instance, gearbox is horrible and it is jammed. A horrible, horrible way. Meanwhile, I've picked up places and then passing Rubens Barrichello on the other end for fourth. At the other corners on the chicane, but I had a good chance to pass Michael Schumacher before Variante Bassa, and moving onward to pass David Coulthard. And in Imola, so lap 1, Hakkinen leads David Coulthard in third, Schumacher fourth, and Barrichello fifth. But now I had a good chance to pass David Coulthard for second place, which is a good result, even if I have to pass Hakkinen for the race lead. And even though the inevitable cannot happen, like passing him there at the Tamburello corner, passing Coulthard at the Tamburello. And then I had a huge off, but Coulthard didn't pass me though. At the other corners heading to the chicane, even though we wouldn't have such problems at all. Coming up in the other corner, I had to pass Hakkinen, and then I had made a bad contact. Almost lost the wing, almost in Brazil in 99. And still I had passed him. But before Tamburello, I had a good move, but I had to be careful with the Tamburello corner, and then passing him for the lead, taking the lead in this race of the San Marino Grand Prix. But then and it was on lap 3. But there was devastation for Williams with Jensen Button out of the running with the engine failure. A disastrous outcome for JB. Meanwhile, I had a huge off, and then Hakkinen taking the place back. And even though I needed to chase the flying fin, which inevitable occurred. Meanwhile, in the other corners, I tried to pass him again, forcing him wide, and then I made contact again. And then at the Ferrari Barca, I ran wide by mistake, and then I passed him for the lead. Meanwhile, Coulthard tried to chase Hakkinen, and even though for the place. Meanwhile, while the people are fighting for the place, Johan Lacey needed to pass Alex Verts, and even though he needed to pass him for the place, it is some other corners, but then, even though the inevitable occurred, when John Alesi hit Alex first, and Alesi losing the front wing and the Alex first losing the rear wing, and that means that Alesi is going to pit for the nose change and Alex first going to retire onwards. Meanwhile, Evan is up for the place, but Ralf Schumacher tried to catch up Eddie Irvine for the place. And meanwhile, I was leading back, and even though I had to see this one coming to pass him, like if you didn't see that one, that's a maneuver. Meanwhile, Irvine and Ralf Schumacher had the same battle between the two, but they didn't pass him, even though he needed to do so, and then passing him on the other corner. But even though Ralf Schumacher tried to take the place, but Irvine held his line, and even though in some other corners, some sort of good ones, and meanwhile there was no such problems for myself if I had to try and do everything. Meanwhile, Irvine still fighting against Ralf Schumacher. And Giancarlo Fisichella trying to chase up with the other guy, and even though Barrichello in 5th, however, but even though I had the same lead in this race of the San Marino and some other shifts, but even though Ralf Schumacher tried to chase Eddie Irvine to pass him for the place at Tamburello, and even though he needed to pass him there for points. And meanwhile, some other corners, I think there was some battle with BAR and the Arrows for some battle with De La Rosa. And Alesi had been beaten, and then he's down for the place. And even though needing it, and the Hakkinen was almost there to pass me. Which had some inevitability and some ability to try anything, holding the line onwards. Meanwhile, there was some battle, and then Coulthard passing Mika Hakkinen for 2nd place, seeing that good maneuver at Tamburello, at the Tamburello corner, and even though nothing less that it had good ones in some early something in other corners, as Heidfeld held his own line, but he had a gearbox issue, forcing him to retire. A disastrous outcome for Alan Prost and his team. And meanwhile, the Arrows driver needed to do well, and even though Ralf Schumacher tried to pass him for the place, passing Irvine, but Irvine held this line. The Irishman nearly had it to score the points in sixth, but but there were some glitches everywhere. But putting in animation in transition is what I think. PS. Okay, let's go back. Coulthard and Hakkinen trying to fight for the place, for the podium place, like second and third, and even though Johnny Herbert is moving, but not yet a lap. I think either a lapped car for Herbert, whatever the situation is, and Mika Hakkinen trying to chase me in some other corners, which is like which is any stage is that I needed to win, just like in Canada in '99 that I done so. Meanwhile, I had a good strategy afterwards, strategy to do well in this race in San Marino at Imola, because having a situation like that is okay at the moment. Meanwhile, I had no such problems with it. Meanwhile, the battle for the place goes on as Ralf Schumacher tried to pass Giancarlo Fisichella. And Giancarlo trying to hold his line, trying to hold the line from Ralph. Meanwhile, Irvine wanted to hold the line also. Meanwhile, I had a good strategy, and Hakkinen was seconds behind me. So Hakkinen trying to chase me for the place, for winning it. By now, it is a good strategy afterwards. By the end of the other lap, Mika Hakkinen tried to pass me for the place, but I held the line perfectly in this situation that I do after leaving Tamburello. And even though he held this line, I held the line, correctly, even if I held the line in his own situation now. So yeah. Meanwhile, I was leading by seconds behind, but needed to go and get some lip car needed to slow him down. But even though in the other situation, by the other lap, but even though holding a line in this situation, and whatever in this situation, and I held the line correctly in this situation. And the other lap for the situation, Giancarlo Fisichella passed the Johnny Herbert for 7th place, which is a good move. And held this line correctly onwards. Meanwhile, I passed the lapped cars. I don't know, like Marc Genet and Gaston Mazzacane on the other end, and Ralf Schumacher had the gearbox problems, sidelining him, which is a hampering for disasters. But there was no such hassles for me in this other situation, and then I had made a, you can see on board with me, and we don't want to get some horrific crash like in some other situations, although which is although I had still held the line correctly, and meanwhile it was the final lap and then crossing the line that I have won the San Marino Grand Prix. Mika Hakkinen finishes in second alongside Coulthard in third, Michael Schumacher in fourth, Rubens Barrichello in fifth, and Irvine taking that sixth and final point. Fisichella in 7th and Herbert in 8th and Salo in 9th and Villeneuve in 10th. No points so far. With my win, and that increases the points. I was pretty pleased with myself afterwards and for Jordan. So the day belonged to myself, the winner for Jordan. It was just 2 weeks until the Greek Grand Prix in Silverstone. I'm happy to win here at Imola after my injuries, and I'm also happy to beat Mika. So it's simply great, and the car was good, and I see that the Jordan team have done incredibly. So it's just 2 weeks and heading to British Grand Prix. See you there in the next part.